Good day to all of you. I am AC and I welcome you to the third lecture of this video series where we will be discussing some aspects of the English language and its history. In the last lecture, we have discussed about the geographical region we currently know as England and tried to have a brief glimpse at the history of the British Isles. We are also trying to understand how the historical and political developments of the islands and its relationship with powers from mainland Europe shaped its language. Last day, we ended while discussing the rise of the Anglo-Saxon language, what conditions led to its creation, and which languages initially influenced its formation. Today, we will continue discussing the outlines of the developments in English history and how such socio-political changes contributed to the growth of the English language. As we have already discussed, the languages of the Anglo-Saxons is also known as the Old English language. The differences in the terminologies are suggestive of two different perspectives of looking at the development of English language. David Crystal feels that when we use the term Anglo-Saxon to denote the language of the first millennia after Common Era, we are focusing more on the differences that form a contrast between the cultural and social realities of the Anglo-Saxon society and those of today. And when we use the term Old English, on the other hand, Crystal opines that it suggests a continuity and different similarities between the language and society of then and now, where Old English is organically followed by Middle English. The Roman Empire left little mark on the language of the British Islands. Those signs of presence being mostly the names of the major settlements they established and a handful of loan words. Celtic influence on Old English was greater than that, yet it was limited because of multiple reasons, which we will discuss later. The introduction of Christianity on the islands caused inclusion of numerous Latin words which found their way into the Old English vocabulary. However, it was during the later half of the Anglo-Saxon period when England became the subject of repeated invasions by the Vikings, mainly from Denmark, that, in the words of Crystal, a linguistic invasion also took place. There had been cultural and literary relations between the English and Scandinavian consciousness before these events. The Angles and the Jutes both originally came from regions neighboring Danish territory. Baugh, in his book, notes that the Germanic inhabitants of the Scandinavian peninsula and Denmark, one-time neighbors of the Anglo-Saxons, were closely related to them in language and blood. When you will be reading the history of Old English literature, you will find that one of the most important pieces of literature from Old English period is called Beowulf, which recounts an old Danish legend concerning King Hrothgar and his kingdom. Now, the onslaught of Viking raiders on England, which began in the year of 787 of Common Era, continued to escalate in the following centuries, and this impacted the Old English language in significant manner. During the 8th century, the Scandinavians began looting and plundering different regions around North Sea and the Baltic region. The moniker by which they are famous in cultural representations, Viking, originally meant looting or plundering. However, though they began with plundering and looting, these tribes gradually conquered and settled in distant lands. The Danes gradually started to settle on the eastern shore of England, and by the 9th century, a part of Britain became Danelaw, as it was governed under the Danish law. During this period, the Scandinavian language left a lasting impression on the Old English language. Signs of the presence of Scandinavian elements can be seen not only in numerous place names, but also in vocabulary and grammar. The Danish influence reached its peak in the times of King Canute, as during his reign, entire England remained under Danish rule for 25 years. However, around the middle of the 11th century, the Scandinavian grip had loosened, and an English king named Edward the Confessor was restored to the English throne. When Edward died childless in the year of 1066, England faced yet another invasion. This time it was from across the English Channel, as the Normans, under the leadership of William the Conqueror, invaded England. But who were these Normans? Normandy is a region in France that is very close to England. Baugh mentions that when England was facing invasion from Scandinavian invaders, some bands of Northmen were settling on the shores of France. The region where they settled came to be known as Normandy, as the Northmen settled there. The King of France, Charles the Simple, and Rollo, who was the leader of the Danes, came to an agreement, and in the year 912, the Northmen gained the right to control the region. While in England, the Danes had retained their socio-cultural nuances and left a lasting impression on the English language, in France, the Danes of Normandy exhibited a marked difference as they rapidly started to borrow the ideas and ways of living they experienced in France. Baugh notes that, and I quote, "They soon gave up their own language and learned French." In the 11th century, at the time of the Norman conquest, the civilization of Normandy was essentially French, and the Normans were among the most advanced and progressive of the peoples of Europe. Unquote. William, the Duke of Normandy, was the second cousin of the late English king Edward the Confessor, and believed that he had a claim on the English throne. In the year of 1066, William emerged victorious against the opposing forces in the Battle of Hastings, and on the day of Christmas, he was crowned as the King of England. William's coronation signaled the end of an era and the dawn of Norman rule in England. During the Norman reign, the nobility consisted mostly of William's Norman followers. Even the members of the church were gradually replaced by foreign monks and priests. As a result, French became the dominant language in England for more than a century. During this period, the use of French by upper classes increased, and that was reflected in the vocabulary. English, quite naturally, came to be treated as a language inferior to French and was largely ignored in the affluent circles. David Crystal feels that this period was a dark age in the history of the language and notes there is hardly any written evidence of English being used. In 1204, as a result of a conflict between King John of England and King Philip of France, John lost control of Normandy. This marked a severance, a separation between England and France, and by extension between English and French culture and language. Gradually, England experienced a rise of national feeling, and the significance of English as a language began to grow. All these developments led to the period of English language that is generally known as Middle English, which was to last until around the end of 15th century. Now, this is where I will stop today's discussion, and I had already provided you a reading list in the previous lecture. But for those who are interested to study even more on the topic, I would like to suggest you one more book. This book is called The English Language, A Guided Tour of the Language. The author of this book is David Crystal, and this book has been published by Penguin. And you can also consult the section of your syllabus where the reference books are listed, and you will find details about all the books that I have suggested and some more. So in the next class, we will start with getting a general idea about the roots of the English language and also the significance of English as a language.